Hey everybody, for this week's discussion, we were supposed to talk about, we were supposed to watch this crash course on the history of the sun and talk about how the workings and natural functions of the sun are quintessential to the development of life on Earth, and a little bit about how it could ultimately destroy the planet and our entire civilization along with it. So if you if you remember watching the video, first of all, there was the fact that the sun itself is a majority of composition of hydrogen gases that at the very core of it are under such immense pressure from the surrounding, well, I guess you could say crust of the sun, for what crust there is, just really hot plasma like gases that put the center of the sun under such immense pressure that it burns through, I think the video said octavian levels of hydrogen every second. Enough to say that it sets off enough nuclear bombs a lot more nuclear bombs per second than the entire Earth's arsenal. That's how much energy the sun gives off per second, and it's been like that for the majority of its history. Now, I remember from another class I took a while back that the sun is in what is called its interphase right now, which most stars spend the majority, as much as 90% of their life in, before they ultimately become what the video said, red giants, or smaller, just red giants, which are supposed to be slightly bigger versions of a star right after they finish their interphase. They don't have as much life, but anyway, that's basically where our sun is at right now, and where I estimate is going to be spending quite a long time before it starts moving on into other stages of its lifetime. But anyway, going back to how the sun generates its energy, like I said, a lot of it happens at the core of the planet because of how much pressure. I think it said like imagine the Earth's gravity, except to multiply that by about 270 million times. Yeah, that is a lot of pressure. It's enough pressure, even such that the electrons in all the atoms can escape, and this causes energy to be released from the sun over time, and whether it's in the form of what was it called? Well, basically, the sunspots, like I said, a plasma eruption, which eventually gets to the surface, that quintessentially actually helps it generate even more energy, because it helps provide even more pressure on that part of the surface, even if it does temporarily dim the surface of the sun's light for a time. There was the solar winds that happen as a result of a solar flare from the sun. That's a very massive example of how the sun releases its energy. And ultimately, as well, is just the nuclear fusion that happens in the core, and this is really the key component for everything about this production of the sun's energy, because it confuses a billion, I don't even remember, but something like billions of tons of hydrogen every second, something like that. That's a lot of energy, but ultimately a lot of that energy is released out in every direction, according to the video, mostly around the equator of the sun, which honestly I'm curious to see how the equator works on the sun, if it's like Earth or something like that. But anyway, that energy is released out into the rest of our solar system, which is important to the development of life on Earth, because that energy travels to the atmosphere of our planet, which our magnetic field, if you remember we talking about in the past, basically bounces off the the gamma rays and those kinds of harmful rays that would really be bad to the development of life on Earth. But at the same time, it lets the sunlight energy through, like you can probably see the light in the background right there, such that it provides enough heat for the development of life on Earth, primarily so that liquid water, I would think, is formable on Earth, and ultimately, well, like what we discussed last week. And whenever you find liquid water, you're bound to discover life somewhere not too far away. So that's what I believe is the importance with the sun in the development of life on Earth. But as for how it could ultimately destroy our civilization, because the video did mention that, it mentioned in a solar flare in about, I think the first one they recorded was in like 1857 or something like that. They said there was the strongest solar flare that happened in history, and it could, and if it happened like today and it hit the Earth, it could pretty much wipe out our entire civilization because it would destroy our satellites, it would destroy a lot of our electronics on the ground, and it gave an example of what it could do with there was something that happened in Quebec or Canada, power outage as a result of a solar flare, but just imagine that on a worldwide scale, because it would be strong enough to penetrate enough of our atmosphere to wipe out the satellites and all that stuff, which is what our civilization runs very heavily upon. I honestly didn't know that. But yeah, and I found it honestly a little bit funny at the same time, because the video did say that there was another solar flare that happened not too long ago that was of the same caliber as the 1857 solar flare. And let's just be thankful that it went off in a different direction, because if that hit Earth, well, we probably wouldn't be having this discussion right now. We probably wouldn't have any of these computers or anything. We'd still be recovering in some way, shape, or form. I honestly don't know how much damage it could do exactly, but enough to say that we probably wouldn't have a lot of the electronics and stuff we have now. Anyway, that is my screencast on the development of life on Earth and kind of how the sun could wipe it out at the same time. Anyway, I'll be looking forward to seeing all of you's opinions. Have a good day.